My name is Aaron. Let me tell you about what happened 3 years ago. That night changed my life forever. I still can't forget her eyes. Pure white eyeballs with blood vessels crawling like spider webs. No iris, no pupils, just empty white holes. When she stared at me through the security monitor, I realized this wasn't the human world anymore. And then she crawled away along the wall, using all four limbs as if defying gravity itself. I watched from the break room, trembling as she pushed through the glass doors and disappeared into the darkness of the night. That was around 4 am during my first night shift at West Market. Why am I telling you this story? If you ever come across a similar job posting, night security guard wanted $21/hour, West Market in New Hope, never, ever apply. But if you're as desperate as I was, at least you should know what's waiting for you. The 8 rules. And what happens when you break them. 3 years later, I'm still working at that store. Because once you experience a night shift at West Market, you can never return to the normal world. What I'm about to tell you is the complete record of my first night. I remember every single word. I can't forget it. Let me go back to 3 years ago. I found that job posting during the worst period of my life. I was 2 months behind on rent, and they were about to cut off my electricity. I kept getting rejected from normal jobs, and I was running out of options. I found a small ad on an online job site. Night security guard wanted West Market location. New Hope, Pennsylvania hours. 12 m 6 m pay. $21/hour immediate start available. $21 an hour was a godsend for me at the time. But something felt off. Why would a grocery store need a security guard after closing? I had a phone interview with a man named Clive. He had a kind voice, but there was something rushed about him, like he wanted to get off the phone quickly. When I asked, "What happened to the previous guard?" there was a brief silence.
He didn't follow instructions.
Clive said.
Can you follow instructions, Aaron?
At the time, I didn't understand what that meant. Now I do. It was a warning. On my first night, I arrived 15 minutes early. I was nervous. When I got out of my car, I saw the rundown strip mall. All the stores except West Market were empty, with "space for rent" signs dancing in the windows. Judging by the dusty glass and flickering streetlights, no one had taken them up on the offer in years. I should have turned around right then, but I had no choice. In front of the store, I passed a woman, early 30s, brown hair tied back. She was hurrying away, clearly agitated.
You must be Aaron?
She said breathlessly. That's me.
I'm Sarah, day shift manager. Clive left instructions for you. They're on the conveyor belt at Register 1.
She wouldn't make eye contact with me. Her gaze was constantly directed toward the store, as if she was running from something.
Follow the rules.
She suddenly added.
Always. Your life depends on it.
With that, she rushed past me across the parking lot. She jumped into her car and sped away with enough force to spin out. Looking back, Sarah was trying to save me, but I couldn't understand it at the time. The automatic doors squeaked open. The interior was clean, contrary to its external appearance. Bright fluorescent lights shone from overhead, and jazz music played from hidden speakers. But something felt off. The music seemed to be looping, the same melody repeating over and over. I opened the envelope waiting at Register 1. The letter paper contained neat handwriting.
Dear Aaron, welcome to the West Market family. We sincerely hope your first shift will be successful. The following rules are essential to ensure your safety. Rule 1, as night security, patrol the store every 30 minutes. Spend the rest of your time in the break room monitoring security cameras. Rule 2, do not enter aisle 7. Do not look down aisle 7. Rule 3, if you hear knocking sounds from the freezers in the frozen food section, ignore them completely. Rule 4, if you find a shopping cart that hasn't been put away, immediately return it to the cart station at the front of the store. Rule 5, don't be alarmed if you find a pool of blood in the meat section. Clean it with cleaning supplies. However, be extremely careful not to touch the blood directly. Rule 6, if you see a woman in the store, immediately go to the break room and stay there until she completely leaves. Do not call the police. Do not make eye contact with her. Rule 7, if the music stops, immediately take refuge in the break room and don't come out until it resumes. Rule 8, under no circumstances should you end your shift before 6 a.m. These rules are not a joke. They exist to protect your life. Have a good night. Clive.
I stared at the paper. At first, I almost laughed. I thought it must be some kind of sick joke. But the texture of the paper, the quality of the ink, and above all, the security camera in the corner looking down at me told me this was real. Sarah's last words came back to me.
Your life depends on it.
My phone screen, 12:06 a.m. Time to start my first patrol. Walking through the empty store was a surreal experience. A place that would be bustling during the day was now silent as a graveyard. Bread and pastries had been stored away in refrigerators, and white film had been pulled over the produce section for temperature control. Aisle 3, pasta and sauces lined up neatly. Aisle 4, cookies and snacks. Aisles 5, 6. Aisle 7 was approaching. I deliberately directed my gaze to the floor. It seemed ridiculous, but rules were rules. They might check the CCTV footage later to evaluate my performance. I intended to follow them perfectly. As I passed the aisle, I thought I saw something in my peripheral vision. The shelves seemed to be moving, but I didn't look directly. I arrived at the frozen food section. The patrol was supposed to turn around here and head back to the front. That's when I found it. A shopping cart, parked diagonally in the middle of the aisle. Of all the rules, this was the one I understood most. Simple cleaning work. I was hired as a security guard, but I could manage putting away a cart. The wheels began rolling smoothly across the tile floor. Jazz played quietly in the background. I noticed the same saxophone melody repeating. How long had it been looping? Halfway to the front door, it began. A faint sound, so subtle it was almost drowned out by the music. I stopped and listened carefully. Several seconds of silence. Then I heard it again. Crying. A woman's voice, or maybe a child's. Sobbing echoed through the store. The hair on my neck stood up. There shouldn't be anyone here. The doors were locked. There was no way for anyone else to get in. Maybe a customer got left behind at closing time. Maybe Sarah didn't notice them and locked up before they could get out. Is someone there? I called out loudly. Sobbing answered me back. Louder, more desperate. I'm coming. I abandoned the cart and started running. Where are you? What's wrong? No answer. Just continued crying. I headed toward the sound. I kept shouting that help was coming, that everything would be okay. The source of the sound became clearer. It was coming from the back of the store, from one of the aisles. And then I stopped. It was coming from aisle 7.
Rule 2, do not enter aisle 7. Do not look down aisle 7.
I stopped just short of the aisle and hid behind a mayonnaise display. My heart was pounding violently. I'll help you. I called out. Can you tell me what happened? Are you hurt? Finally, the voice responded, but it didn't answer my question. Help me, it said in a trembling voice.
Please, help me.
I was overcome with the urge to run into the aisle. My foot was half in the air, but something, a primitive instinct, stopped me. Of all the aisles, why aisle 7? It was too much of a coincidence. Come out of the aisle, I shouted. Then I can help you. I'll take you somewhere safe.
Please, help me.
The same words, the same intonation. Even the slight stutter was identical, like playing back a recording in a perfectly consistent pattern. Should I call your parents? Should I call the police?
Help me, please.
Exactly the same, like mechanically repetitive AI-generated speech. This wasn't a human voice. But what if it really was someone in trouble? What if my paranoia meant abandoning someone who needed help? I'd get my phone. It was in my backpack at Register 1. I'd get it and call the police, and they'd handle it properly. The rules didn't say anything about walking past aisle 7. They just said not to enter it or look down it. Walking past should be fine. Don't worry. I'm getting my phone to call the police, I called out. I took a deep breath, kept my eyes on the floor, and walked past aisle 7 toward Register 1. The moment I took a step, the crying stopped, completely, instantly, like flipping a switch. And then footsteps began. Heavy, slapping footsteps. Someone running down the aisle at full speed toward me. Too heavy to be a child's footsteps. Not even normal adult footsteps. My heart froze. This is a trap. They're coming for me. I might die here. But as soon as I completely passed aisle 7, the footsteps stopped. All I heard was the quiet jazz playing from the speakers overhead. The same looping melody, repeating forever. I ran to the break room as fast as I could, completely forgetting about the cart. The break room was small and cramped. The small square window in the door was covered with black paper from the inside. I didn't understand why it needed to be hidden at the time. The computer on the desk displayed security camera feeds. I checked each feed. Aisles, registers, produce section, meat section. Everything looked empty. But I noticed one thing. There was no camera covering aisle 7. The cameras were intentionally positioned to avoid that aisle. Aisle 7 was a complete blind spot. I leaned back in the chair and closed my eyes. What was that voice? Was it really human, or was it something else? I looked at the clock. 12:34 a.m. 5.5 hours to go. As I got up to prepare for my second patrol, I remembered something important. The cart. I hadn't returned it. I quickly checked the store. It wasn't where I'd left it, near aisle 7. Instead, it was parked neatly next to Register 3, as if someone had carefully moved it. My spine went cold. There was supposed to be no one else here. How did it move? I grabbed the cart and headed for the front door. The parking lot outside was completely dark. Not a single streetlight was working. This'll be quick, I told myself. 2 seconds. The moment I opened the door and stepped outside, I was enveloped in an eerie silence. No car sounds, no insects, no wind. Complete silence, as if sound had vanished from the world. I pushed the cart into the station and hurried back inside. I locked the door securely. Okay, I sighed with relief. That wasn't too bad. But then I noticed. The jazz wasn't playing. How long had it been stopped? I'd been so focused on the cart that I hadn't noticed at all.
Rule 7. If the music stops, immediately take refuge in the break room and don't come out until it resumes.
I sprinted toward the back of the store. Aisles blurred past me. I made a sharp right turn and dove into the break room, slamming the door shut. My heart was pounding violently. Why had the music stopped? And why was that dangerous? I reread the rule list.
Rule 8. Under no circumstances should you end your shift before 6 a.m.
Why did he write this? Was it just to prevent people from flaking out on him? Or would something terrible happen if I left early? Because I really wanted to go home. I took a soda out of my backpack and took a sip. Checked the security monitors. Everything looked normal. 5 minutes later, the jazz resumed. The same looping melody. 5 more hours to go. Over the next few hours, I established a pattern. Every 30 minutes, I'd sprint around the store at full speed, then spend the rest of the time holed up in the break room. Each patrol took less than a minute. 1:36 a.m. second patrol, I heard strange sounds in the frozen food aisle. It started as light tapping, like someone tapping the glass from inside with their fingers. It gradually got louder, eventually becoming violent banging sounds, like someone punching the glass with their fists.
Rule 3. If you hear knocking sounds from the freezers in the frozen food section, ignore them completely.
I kept my eyes forward and passed by without stopping. 2:06 a.m. third patrol, I witnessed a strange sight in aisle 17. All the products on the shelves were identical. Cans labeled beef stew continued infinitely, like reality had glitched. Was this normal? Was it like this during the day too? 2:36 a.m. fourth patrol, the music stopped again. This time I noticed immediately and rushed to the break room. I waited in silence for 5 minutes. When the music returned, it sounded slightly different. The same melody, but somehow distorted. The tempo was subtly slower. 3:06 a.m. fifth patrol, this is where things took a dramatic turn. The moment I opened the break room door, I saw it. A massive pool of blood on the floor. Dark red liquid spread just inches from my feet. It gleamed ominously under the fluorescent lights.
Rule 5. Don't be alarmed if you find a pool of blood in the meat section.
Clean it with cleaning supplies. However, be extremely careful not to touch the blood directly. But this wasn't the meat section. It was right in front of the break room. I went to the cleaning supply closet. Mop and bucket, bleach. I found gloves too. The work was more difficult than I'd imagined. The blood had already begun to partially coagulate and was viscous. Every time the mop absorbed blood, the bucket water turned crimson. Several times it almost splashed on me, but I carefully avoided it. It took me 15 minutes to clean it completely, but questions remained. Whose blood was this? And why was it somewhere other than the meat section? Clock, 3:27 a.m. I was past the next patrol time. I was too tired to run full speed. I started the patrol at a brisk walk. In the frozen food aisle, I noticed something wrong with the glass doors. Handprints were plastered on the inside. Various sizes of handprints, but they all looked abnormal. Fingers too long. Joint positions wrong. Traces of something that wasn't human hands. As I walked through the aisles, I began to feel disgusted by the jazz music. I'd heard the same saxophone melody dozens of times. It was looping in my head, eroding my concentration. On my way to the produce section, I saw it. A woman standing in aisle 9. Blue linen dress, black high heels, long black hair flowing to her waist. She was facing away, completely still, with thin white arms hanging at her sides. She held a basket in her hand, filled with chunks of raw meat. Blood dripped from the meat, creating small red spots on the tile floor.
Rule 6. If you see a woman in the store, immediately go to the break room and stay there until she completely leaves. Do not call the police. Do not make eye contact with her.
I began to back away carefully, taking extreme care not to make noise. Click. The sound of her high heel hitting the tile. I froze. She wasn't moving, still facing away. So what was that sound? Click. Click. The sound was coming from in front of me, from the opposite direction of where she was standing. Slowly shifting my gaze, I saw black high heels at the entrance to another aisle. How did she move? Teleportation? Rule 6: do not make eye contact with her. I fixed my gaze on the floor. All I could see were her shoes, and the blood dripping from the meat basket. With every step I backed up, she took a step forward, perfectly matching my pace. Click, click, click. I picked up my pace. She matched it. Click, click, click. I started running. Click, click, click. She was running too, in high heels. The sound of her racing across the tile floor echoed through the store. I escaped into a random aisle, but halfway through I was forced to stop. A wall of shopping carts. Not just one. Dozens of carts intricately tangled together, completely blocking the aisle. The height reached nearly to the ceiling, as if someone had intentionally built a barricade. Slow footsteps could be heard from behind me. Click, click. Slow, calculated steps, like a predator that had cornered its prey. I ran in the opposite direction. The moment I jumped into another aisle, I realized I had made a mistake. A gray mass sitting on the floor, human-shaped, but clearly not human. Sickly pale skin, tattered clothing, curled up like a crying child. But the most terrifying thing was that it had no head. From the neck up was completely missing. Yet it was alive and began to move in response to my intrusion. I had entered aisle 7.
Rule 2: do not enter aisle 7. Do not look down aisle 7.
The headless being began to stand up, the sound of joints creaking unnaturally. Not human movement, but jerky motion. I tried to back away, but the woman's footsteps were approaching from behind. Click, click, click. The headless monster in front, the white-eyed woman behind, completely trapped. The headless being began walking toward me. Its footsteps made wet sounds. Squish, squish, like walking barefoot through blood. Was this the source of the "help me" voice from aisle 7? How could it make sounds without a head? There was no time to think. I burst out of the aisle and charged toward the woman. Keeping my eyes fixed on the floor, I tried to get past her feet. At that moment, her footsteps stopped. Complete silence. I kept running. Without looking back, without stopping, I sprinted toward the break room at full speed. When I reached the door, my hands were shaking so badly I couldn't turn the knob. I felt like something was chasing me from behind. The headless being, the woman, or both. Finally, I opened the door, dove inside, and slammed it shut. I collapsed into the chair, breathing heavily. I turned my attention to the security monitor. I needed to check each camera feed. I had to know where the woman was. Feed 1, front entrance, empty. Feed 2, produce section, empty. Feed 3, register area, empty. When I switched to the next feed, my heart nearly stopped. She was there, standing directly in front of the break room door. From the camera angle, I could see her from behind. Blue dress, black hair, holding the basket with dripping blood, completely motionless. But something was wrong. I looked under the door. Her shadow was there. The shadow of her feet, her body. Back to the monitor. She was still standing there, facing away, but the shape of the shadow of her head in the window moved. slowly tilting left and right, as if sensing my presence and calculating the best angle of attack. Now I understood why the window was covered with black paper, to prevent making eye contact with her. For 20 minutes, she continued standing there, motionless on the monitor. Occasionally, the only sound was a drop of blood falling from the basket. Drip, drip, a hypnotically regular sound. Eventually, she began to move, but her way of walking was abnormal. Even with the low frame rate camera, her movements looked jerky, as if her joints weren't functioning properly, like a puppet. When she disappeared from the screen, I breathed a sigh of relief. After waiting a while, I began checking other camera feeds. I needed to confirm that she was leaving the store. Feeds 4, 5, 6. I looked for the front entrance camera. When I switched to feed 8, I screamed. Her face completely filled the screen. White eyes staring at me. Pure white eyeballs with no pupils or irises. Blood vessels spread like spider webs. Not human eyes.
Rule 6, do not make eye contact with her.
Did it count even through the screen? I jumped back from the chair and covered my face with my hands. My whole body was shaking. A few seconds later, I cautiously peeked through my fingers. She had disappeared from the screen. Instead, I saw a shadow moving along the wall, using all 4 limbs like a spider to move across the ceiling and walls. And then she pushed through the glass doors and went outside, disappearing into the darkness. She was gone. I had survived. Clock, 4:02 a.m. 2 more hours to go. For the remaining time, I stuck to minimal patrols. Every 30 minutes I'd dash through the store and immediately return to the break room. Each patrol took less than 30 seconds. 4:30 a.m. 6th patrol, the mountain of shopping carts was still there. An unstable tower of metal. Who built such a thing? And why? The knocking from the freezers had intensified. No longer knocking, but violent pounding from inside. So violent it seemed like the glass might break. When I passed in front of all 7, I heard that voice again.
Help me, please, help me.
This time, I ignored it. That wasn't human. Something else was just mimicking a human voice. 5 a.m. 7th patrol, the music stopped for a 3rd time. This time it lasted 10 minutes. While waiting in the break room, I heard strange sounds from outside. Dragging sounds, metal scraping against concrete. When the music returned, the melody had completely changed. More discordant, more eerie. It could no longer be called jazz. 5:30 a.m. final patrol, I discovered a new blood pool in the meat section. This time, there were footprints in it. Barefoot prints. But there were too many toes. Traces of 6, no 7 toes. While cleaning, I thought about it. Whose blood was this? The previous security guards? I remembered what Clive had said on the phone.
He didn't follow instructions.
He broke the rules, and as a result, when I finished cleaning and returned to the break room, I could see it was getting light outside. Pink dawn light was streaming through the glass doors. It was the most beautiful sight of my life. Exactly 6 a.m. I could hear car engines outside, the sound of employees arriving for work. I left the break room and headed for the front door. My legs were shaking. I couldn't believe it. I had survived. Looking through the glass doors at the parking lot, I saw several cars arriving. Sleepy employees clutching coffee cups were heading toward the store. The moment the first employee, a middle-aged man, put his hand on the door, I burst out of the store. "It's over!" I shouted as I ran to my car. "It's over!" I fumbled for my car keys, started the engine, and got out of there as fast as I could. Watching West Market recede in my rearview mirror, I had never felt such relief. I was alive. Free. I felt like I'd been reborn. I got onto the main road and rolled down all the windows. Fresh morning air filled my lungs. I turned on the radio. I wanted music. Bright, normal music. What came through the speakers was the sound of a saxophone. That same melody. The cursed loop I'd been forced to listen to all night in the store. I quickly changed to other stations, but they were all playing the same music. AM, FM, all the same saxophone melody. I pulled over to the side of the road and turned off the radio. Silence. But the music continued playing in my head. 3 years have passed since then. For the first few weeks, I was determined never to go near that store again. I tried to find another job and return to a normal life, but the curse wouldn't let me go. The headless being from Aisle 7 appeared in my dreams. When I looked in mirrors, I sometimes saw that woman's white eyes. The saxophone melody would unexpectedly play on my car radio, and every morning, there was a message from Clive on my answering machine.
Aaron, thank you for the wonderful work last night. I'm looking forward to seeing you again tonight.
I understood. Once you know the rules of West Market, you can never return to the normal world. We were chosen, or cursed, to live on the boundary line. I went back to the store, and I still work there today. There are other night guards too. Michael, Lisa, David. We all have the same eyes, the same trembling hands, the same wide open pupils, the mark of survivors. The rules keep changing. New ones are added, old ones evolve. The store itself is like a living entity, breathing, learning, adapting. Recently added rules. Rule 9. If you hear a voice calling your name, don't turn around. It's someone who isn't you. Rule 10. Keep the back room door locked at all times. If you find the door open, don't go to close it. Evacuate the building immediately. Each time new rules are born, our survival becomes more difficult. Sometimes new people appear, like I was 3 years ago, desperate, needing money, with no other options. Last week, a young woman named Jennifer came for an interview, an unemployed college student. She couldn't pay rent and was struggling with tuition. I told her the same thing, never apply, but she didn't listen, just like I hadn't. Her first night shift was yesterday. When she came out of the break room this morning, bloody and trembling, I saw her eyes, the same eyes as mine. What did you see? I asked, and she just shook her head. Something in Aisle 7 called my name, she whispered.
In my own voice.
We'll need a new rule. And now you know the story too. You know the 8 rules. No, now 12 rules. It's not a coincidence. The fact that you're hearing this story means you too are a chosen or cursed person. If you're listening to this story to the end, it might already be too late. Tonight, on your way home, look carefully around you. There might be a new posting on a street corner job board. Night security guard wanted a West Market location, somewhere in your town hours. 12 M6 and pay. $21/hour immediate start available. Even if you find that posting, never call the number. But if you're as desperate as me and all the other night guards, at least remember the rules. Patrol every 30 minutes. Don't enter Aisle 7. Don't look at Aisle 7. Ignore knocking sounds from freezers. Return carts immediately. Clean blood pools, but don't touch them. If you see a woman, go to the break room. Don't make eye contact. If music stops, go to the break room. Never leave early. Don't turn around when you hear your name called. Don't approach if the back room door is open. Don't react to faces in mirrors that aren't your own. Always be in the break room at 3:33 a.m. These rules might save your life, or like me, they might bind you there forever. Either way, you've been warned. And now, can you hear it? The faint sound of a saxophone? It's calling you. West Market is looking for a new night guard. You. My name is Aaron, night security guard at West Market. 3 years ago, I was a normal person. Now I'm a guardian of the boundary line, a being living on the border between the everyday and nightmares. And tomorrow night, I'll patrol the store again following those 8 rules, no, 12 rules. Because if we abandon our jobs, those things will overflow into the outside world. We are both victims and the last line of defense. So I'll work tonight, tomorrow night too, next year as well. And someday, you'll join us too. When that time comes, I'll give you new employee training, starting with explaining the rules. Welcome to West Market. Enjoy your night shift.